because literally Saturn is represented by the devil in the tarot. And if you look at it, you'll notice that you have the devil sitting on top of a black cube. And then you have two human beings, a male and a female, chained to that black cube, which is causing them to take on the features of the devil. So a human being operating completely from their lower nature, completely from their animalistic, basic instincts. And remember, that's exactly what that god Pan is about. That untamed animalistic nature, giving fully into your lower nature and basically giving fully into the material world without any type of self-discipline or higher thought, which all come from the mind. So again, matter over mind. Well, there's a very old form of chemistry, a really ancient scientific practice called alchemy. And this whole process was broken down into 7 steps. And those 7 steps were symbolized by the 7 rungs of a ladder, with that final step or that final rung representing full spiritual enlightenment or full transformation, bringing the physical side completely together with the spiritual side. And the very first step on that ladder, called calcination, is connected to the planet Saturn. And Saturn is connected to the root chakra and represented by lead. Because if you think about it, lead is one of the heaviest metals. So it can be really hard to maneuver and to handle. But at the same time, it's very soft. All it takes is the scratch of a fingernail to put an impression into lead. It's also one of the most dangerous metals. And when dealing with it, you got to worry about things like lead poisoning. So at this stage, you can look at the mind in the same way. Hard to handle, but easily manipulated, easily reshaped, and easily reformed. And a high possibility of being extremely toxic if it's not handled the right way. And then with the root chakra, obviously out of all the 7 chakras, the root chakra is the lowest chakra. And so it's dealing with your lower nature. And it's basically the foundation of all the rest of the chakras. So if that root chakra is unbalanced, it pretty much sends everything else out of whack. You can pretty much forget about all the rest of the chakras. That root chakra is where the stability of everything else starts. And when you have an unstable root chakra, it means that you're basically giving completely into the physical and allowing yourself to be controlled by your lower nature. And the root chakra is connected to the earth. So it's the one chakra that keeps you grounded here and can keep you grounded here if you never learn how to control it, how to discipline it. And then the color of the root chakra is also red. But just think about an unstable root chakra, somebody giving fully into their lower nature. And then think about that classic depiction of the red devil and that idea that the devil uses all of the riches and the pleasures of the physical world to tempt you and to ultimately take control of you and to bring you down to his level and to get you to serve him and ultimately to destroy you. You know how they say an idle mind is the devil's playground. So a mind that's not being put to use is vulnerable to the temptations of the devil. So you've got the red devil and the red root chakra, or your lower self, your lower nature, which is being worked on in that first step of alchemy. Now, because this first step is all about burning away all those toxins, impurities, and using that heat to remove yourself from that matter. And because all of this is connected to Saturn, in alchemy, Saturn is actually looked at as the black sun. And this process of calcination is called the negrito, or the blackness. But looking at it from a scientific standpoint, a black sun would technically be a dead star, because when a star dies, if it doesn't completely collapse on itself and become a black hole, then as soon as it cools down and no longer emits any heat or light, it becomes a black dwarf. At least that's the theory anyway. But you got to wonder, where did the inspiration for that theory come from? Now, remember, there is that idea floating out there that at one point Saturn was literally our sun, that it replaced the sun that we see in the sky today. And so when the people in these ancient civilizations looked up in the sky, they would see Saturn, just like we can look up and see the sun today. And when you look at Saturn through a telescope, with the way that it's positioned in the sky, from our vantage point, you can see the planet itself, and then you can see the majority of the rings of Saturn surrounding the planet. And from that vantage point, with the planet in the middle And those rings surrounding the planet, Saturn, looks a lot like an eye. It looks like you have the pupil of an eye surrounded by the frame of an eye. And so you can imagine if Saturn was closer to the Earth at some point in the past, when people looked up in the sky, this is what they would have seen. It literally would have looked like an eye in the sky looking down on the planet. Now, we know that Egypt is one of the oldest known civilizations that we know of. And when you look at all of the hieroglyphs and all of the monuments, one of the symbols that you see throughout Egypt the most is the eye. You can find the eye all throughout Egypt. And then more specifically in Egyptian mythology, you have the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra, two different eyes that look identical. But of course, those two different eyes both have their own separate origin stories. Now, with the eye of Horus, Horus is the son of two of the most ancient gods, Isis and Osiris. And Horus's father, Osiris, is killed by his own brother, Set, because Set wanted to take his position as the supreme god. But there was one thing in the way of that. Isis and Osiris had a son, Horus. And being Osiris's son, Horus held that rightful position as the supreme god. So Set set out to kill Horus and finally take over as the supreme god. Now, fast forward a little bit, and Horus and Set are battling for the throne. And during that battle, Set gouges out Horus's left eye, literally pulls his eye out. But even despite that, Horus is able to fight off Set, and Set flees. He runs away and the battle ends. But now Horus has lost his left eye. So Horus goes to one of the elder gods, Hathor, and Hathor restores his eye. And when Horus's eye is fully restored, he offers it over to his father, Osiris, hoping that it can somehow restore his life. And the eye of Horus will go on to symbolize sacrifice, healing, restoration, and protection. And then we have the eye of Ra. And in this version of the mythology, Ra is the supreme god, but he's getting old and he's kind of starting to lose his influence over the people. So he goes to his father, an even more ancient god named Nun. And Nun, by the way, literally represents the ancient waters, the water that has been around since the beginning of time that everything came from. But Ra goes to his father, Nun, and asks him how he can get back the respect and the reverence of the people. So Nun tells him to sit on his throne and take out his right eye. And the eye immediately takes on its own form and becomes the goddess Sekhmet. And Sekhmet is this bloodthirsty god that immediately goes out and starts causing total destruction. She just continually moves through the earth, causing death everywhere she goes. And when Ra tries to get her to stop, she just keeps going, like she is hell bent on destruction. So Ra sets up a council with the rest of the gods and the people, and they devise this plan to trick Sekhmet, to bait her in with this vial of blood that's also been contaminated with some stuff that will make her pass out. So Sekhmet falls for it, and while she's out, Ra takes away about half of her power. And when she wakes up, she's still bloodthirsty and still a god of destruction, but now she only uses that power to protect things. And after this, Ra steps down from his throne, and this is when Osiris, the father of Horus, becomes the new supreme god. So from these two mythologies, you can see you have two gods sitting on the same throne, representing the two opposite sides of that throne, the left eye and the right eye. And with that left eye, you're getting healing, restoration, life, positive energy. And then that right eye is connected to destruction, chaos, and death. So of course, negative energy. So you got negative, positive, good, evil. You've got these dual energies being represented by these two eyes, two opposing sides of the same source. Now, once the federal government of the United States was established in the early 1700s, we would get the Great Seal of the United States, the bald eagle on the front and the Eye of Providence on the back, leading up to the top of the pyramid. which is the all-seeing eye, hovering over those 13 steps, almost like an eye in the sky with that light illuminating from it as if it was a sun. So you got to question, what is the all-seeing eye? Is it a sun? Are we looking at the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra? What's going on? Well, if we look at what would seem to be the upper echelon of society, the celebrities, public figures, people with large amounts of notoriety and influence over the masses, at one point or another, you can find instances of what seems like them all doing the same exact thing, throwing up this one eye symbolism. You have all these instances of all these celebrities doing the same exact thing, placing their hand over one of their eyes and leaving just one eye visible. And like I said, it's not just one. It seems like you have just about all of them doing this. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a public figure with some type of celebrity to their name who hasn't done it at one point or another. Musicians, actors, actresses, politicians, anybody with a little bit of notoriety has done this one eye symbolism. And again, it'd be one thing if it was just a few people, but it literally seems like everybody. And it's not just some recent trend, because you can go as far back as the 50s and 60s and still find celebrities and the popular figures during those times making the exact same hand gesture, covering one eye and only exposing that one eye, just giving you that one eye. And it seems to stretch all over the world, no matter what part of the world. The people with influence, the people with stardom, all seem to be throwing up this same thing. And it's not impossible that there's some world-renowned photographer who just loves to take shots of people in this exact same pose. But it's happening all over the world and spanning across different decades, not to mention different industries. And yet everybody is doing the same exact hand gesture. And when you think about it, the one thing that all of these people have in common is that they're all big name personalities. They all have fame and they all have stardom. That celebrity status is the one thing that connects all of them together. So these are the people that are reaping the benefits of society on a large scale. Billionaires, multimillionaires. All of these people are a part of the upper class of society. People who are really reaping the benefits of the material world. And then they have the fame and the notoriety to go along with it. So their material success is on public display for the masses. Everybody is witnessing that success and also watching them reap the benefits of that success, experiencing material gain at the highest level. And remember that full indulgence into the material world, into the physical, is going to lead you to Satan. Because when you fully give into the material world, it becomes matter over mind, that upside down pentagram, just like human beings being chained to that black cube of the devil. And remember those characteristics of the devil, tempting you with the riches and the pleasures of the material world and trying to keep you trapped in your lower nature. And it seems like they're pretty much giving it to you clear as day as to what this one eye symbolism is alluding to. It's like it's all right there in plain sight. You have high profile personalities being used to tempt you with all the things of the material world. And so that one eye is like a universal signal for being a part of that. And it may not even be that deep for a lot of these celebrities. A lot of them might just be posing the way they're being told by a photographer, and that's the end of it. But that still doesn't take away from the influence that these people have over the masses and that power to be able to sway the focus of the masses and to keep the general focus of the masses on the material world. But there is times where the symbolism is so blatant and so in your face that you got to wonder just how much do some of these people really know? And it's hard not to think that they might know a lot more than they're letting on. sometimes the subliminal messages that some of these people put out are just so blatantly obvious that it just makes you wonder. It's almost like they're just giving it to you outright. And again, maybe they're just posing the way they're being told to pose, and they have no clue where any of this stuff could possibly go. But the symbolism is there. But it seems like there's even more there, because the symbolism from a lot of these people gets even more blatant. A lot of them will throw up what looks like that OK hand sign, and they'll usually put it right over their eye. And again, at face value, it seems like nothing, seems pretty innocent. But again, with these celebrities, we're dealing with a heavy promotion of the material world. And if you really look at that OK hand sign with the two fingers making a circle and then the three fingers going up, it kind of looks like 3 6s overlapping each other. It looks really similar. If you layer 3 6s on top of each other, you get something that looks almost identical to this hand sign. And one of the other places that you'll find 3 6s is with a hexagon. A hexagon has 6 sides, 6 vertices, and 6 angles. So a hexagon is giving you those 3 6s, but you also get 3 6s from carbon. About 98% of all carbon is what's called carbon 12. And carbon 12 is made up of 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. Now remember, all organic life is carbon based. So pretty much all organic life is going to be based on carbon 12, those 3 6s. So the majority of the material world is based on 3 6s. And again, we've got these celebrities who heavily promote the material world and represent the highest level of physical success, throwing up what looks like 3 6s. And in a lot of cases, placing those 6s over their eye. And from the looks of it, that eye is ultimately taking you back to Saturn. And of course, we've got that hexagon on Saturn. And the hexagon, again, is going to take you back to 3 6s. And ultimately going to take you back to carbon 12, which is going to lead you to the physical world, or at least a good portion of it. So you have all these celebrities throwing up what looks like 3 6s. And it's another thing that they've been doing for decades. You got pretty much every single person with any type of notoriety, any type of fame doing it. There's almost not a time that you can't go back and find the people with stardom, the people with celebrity status throwing up this hand sign. I mean, it's just decades and decades of what seems like literally everybody doing it. All the people with the most influence over society. And again, all the people with the most material success. They're all throwing up 3 6s. And not just the actors, musicians, politicians, and the athletes. I mean, it's literally everybody with any type of influence. Everybody with the high level of material success in front of the public eye. At some point in their career, you'll find that they've flashed this hand sign. And again, it stretches across different industries and is spread out throughout history. And there's times when you'll see them throw this hand sign up, and they'll also be throwing up what looks like a set of horns right along with it. And it's easy to think nothing of it. But we know if you trace it back far enough, those horns can lead you back to the god Pan, the goat, the Baphomet, and all of that is going to ultimately lead you back to Satan. And just think about the connection. Again, you've got these celebrities seemingly playing a key role in keeping you focused on the material. So metaphorically helping to keep you chained to that black cube of the devil, keeping your attention focused on the things of the physical world, all of the things that the devil would use to pull you in and keep you trapped. You know, fortune, fame, material possessions, an abundance of physical pleasure, keeping you trapped in your root chakra. And like I said, some of these people may not realize just exactly what they're promoting. They might genuinely be completely out of the loop, but then there's the ones that take it to the next level, wearing clothes with the upside down pentagram, the Baphomet and wearing all this stuff with the goat symbology right out in the open. Then you've got the celebrities that are literally walking around with the numbers 666, just blatantly letting you know exactly what they're about. 666 plastered big as day right on their shirt for everybody to see. I mean, we even know before Biggie Smalls passed away, he was planning on starting his own clothing line, and it was literally going to be called 666. And you could see him and the rest of Junior Mafia wearing some of the clothes just before he passed away. Again, seemingly just giving it to you outright what these people are about and what their role is in that position as the influencers of the masses. Biggie Smalls was all about promoting that low vibrational gutter hip hop. And a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but he got really dark with a lot of his lyrics. And this is the type of stuff that when you listen to it repeatedly, it can be really damaging to your mind because those lyrics are speaking to your lower nature. And even if it's not affecting you consciously, it can still be doing all types of damage to you subconsciously. But yeah, you got all these celebrities wearing all this different stuff, seemingly using all this different symbolism and throwing up all these different hand signs that all seem to go back to Satan, that seem to correlate with negative, low vibrational energy. Again, keeping you trapped in the material. Literally everybody with any type of influence and high levels of success within this system, they've all thrown up the OK hand sign, or what looks like those 3 6s. Now you got to understand this hand sign has been around for a very long time. And in Hinduism and Buddhism, each finger has a different meaning. And when you place different fingers together, you get different interpretations. And when the fingers are placed in this position, it's called the Gyan Mudra, or the mudra of knowledge. Now, the word mudra just means a hand gesture. And this particular mudra is focused on strengthening the mind and basically bringing out the full potential of the mind. Now, remember, you got all these influential people throwing up something that looks identical to the Gyan Mudra. And remember, these are all the people that have the strongest influence over the minds of the masses. People who convey different levels of knowledge to the general public. And their main function, again, seems to be getting you to focus all your attention on the material world. So getting you to allow your matter to take over your mind. And then a lot of times they take that Gyan Mudra and they place it over their eye. And of course, from everything we can see, it looks like that eye is pointing back to Saturn. So it's almost like it's hinting at Saturn controlling the mind of the masses and keeping the masses trapped in the material world.